The conservation of biodiversity is of global importance but faces major challenges. Rising human population and growing demands for economic development is increasing pressure on protected areas as people search for agricultural land and other natural resources for both domestic consumption and trade. Numerous approaches have been used to engage local communities in biodiversity conservation, but the increasing challenges facing protected areas calls for more meaningful engagement and commitment from the communities living closest to them. Engaging local communities through their dependence on nature for their livelihoods is important, but is not enough. The Cultural Values and Conservation Project, a partnership project between Fauna and Flora International and the Uganda Wildlife Authority, began in Lake Mburo and Rwenzori Mountains National Parks and is now working in 6 protected and 1 non-protected areas.
Conservation of biodiversity is becoming more challenging. As human population increases, there is increased demand on the natural resources in order to meet the needs of the people, the food, economic development, and this puts enormous pressure on the biodiversity. So as we strive to conserve this biodiversity, which is mostly done in protected areas, we need to engage the communities that live next to these protected areas.
Now, Rwenzori Mountains National Park, or the Rwenzori Mountains, were gazetted in 1991, and it covers an area of 995 square kilometers. The park is unique in that its landscape is of physical and cultural beauty. The park is considered sacred because the Banyarwenzururu have special places in this park where they go to perform rituals in order to communicate to the gods.
The mountains are sacred to the Bakonja people who believe they are the home of their gods. Numerous sacred sites are located across the mountains and are a major determinant of how the people relate to and value the mountains and therefore the national park.
Many of the people who still live in these hotspots or havens of biodiversity still have close links with the natural world. The way they behave, the attitude, the way they interact with nature are very, very critical. So that's why FFI is taking interest in the idea of cultural values of the people and how this can connect to conservation of biodiversity.
But now with working with the Cultural Values Conservation Project, we now having a connection to Rwenzururu and the traditional leaders who spearhead the cultural attributes of the Banyarwenzururu or Bakonzo people that live around the mountains, for people to start accessing these sites. So the people now feel connected back to their sacred sites and now can communicate freely to their gods.
The Banyarwenzururu attaches a lot of cultural values, and out of their belief, the chiefs are commonly referred to as cousins. And therefore, one of the areas that we've been able to look at is the Katwekali, which is actually one of the areas where there are a big population of the chimps. And that as a kingdom, we value that and we have a responsibility of making sure they continue to exist. But again, because of the scenario that have been happening, human destruction has been able to do a lot, and most of the chimps have actually been able to move away. It's out of this collaboration that Fauna and Flora and the kingdom is actually collaborating together to make sure that we all protect the biodiversity and the existence of the chimps in the Rwenzori Mountains as a kingdom.
The cultural values works with communities. Basically, we ask the people to tell us what they know, what their values are, rather than us coming to tell them what we know or what we value. And that's the whole idea of making sure that we start from the basic principles of understanding why a biodiversity resource or a protected resource is very important and why it should be conserved. Amount of support in support of biodiversity conservation, and it is the lesson that we'd like to take on and share with the international community.